Hello, John. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Happy to be here.
Excellent. How's the conference been so far for you?
The conference has been great. I really like conferences that are this size. It's not a gigantic trade show. It's not entirely overwhelming, but there are a whole bunch of really interesting people here. And one of the things that I like about State of OpenCon is just the diversity of content, right? So I was in a talk about wearables, in the open hardware track. I've been in some OSPO talks. I've been in some open source talks. It's been, just a really interesting mix of topics.
Yeah, fantastic. 'Cause I think it's kind of covers everything around open source, doesn't it?
Yeah,
things like that. So
open technologies. Open
yeah,
hardware, open source, open data.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and I think they had a theme on AI as well.
Yeah.
AI, so that's coming in as well, which is brilliant. Okay, so tell us a little bit about CHAOSS. What is CHAOSS?
Yes, so it stands for the Community Health Analytics for Open Source Software. So we are focused on project health. So we help open source projects learn more about where their projects are healthy, maybe where they need to make some improvements. We provide metrics that help them do this. We provide software that help them gather the metrics. And we're really sort of laser focused on the health elements of open source projects.
And is that kind of in the form of sort of advice or consulting, or just that sort of raw data that you guys are reporting that you provide them?
Yeah, so we're an open source project under the Linux Foundation.
Oh, okay.
So we're a pure open source project. We don't do any consulting, but we do spend a lot of time just talking to people about how they use their metrics both to learn from how people are using it, but also to provide honestly sort of free advice. Like, we want people to use our metrics, we want people to use our software. So we do spend a fair bit of time just talking to people, and so I'm responsible for data science within the CHAOSS project, which is a relatively new role. So historically what we've done is we've defined a pile of metrics, we have software that helps people gather those metrics, but we were very hands-off, and we didn't really tell people what to do with that. So what happened is people would get overwhelmed by this pile of metrics,
right,
and not know where to start or where to go once they do get started. So my role is really focused on helping people gather insights from the data that they have and the data that they should be gathering. So I'm in the process of writing some guides to help people understand various aspects of project health. I spend a lot of time talking to people, so we work with a lot of other organizations, and I'll just sit down with them and give them advice about metrics, because it's in our best interest as an open source project for people to actually use the things that we create.
Sure, excellent. And you had a talk as well in the conference. What was your talk about?
I did, yeah. So I talked about assessing the viability of open source projects. So what we know is that open source is very easy to consume. So what happens within organizations is an individual engineer says, hey, I see this cool package, I'm just going to incorporate it into our products. And that package might be maintained by a single person in Nebraska, as the XKCD comic goes, or it might be a big project that's really healthy. So what we are encouraging people to do, and what I talked about in this talk, is how to assess the projects that are strategic for your organization, that you've incorporated into your products or into your infrastructure. How do you look at those and decide if they're viable? How do you look at things like governance, the community, the compliance and security of the project? How do you look at some more strategic things?
Excellent. Okay. So, what's next for CHAOSS this year? What are the main activities for you guys?
Yes, so we just set our goals for the next year or so, probably year or two, and they have a few different components. So one is the data science piece that I talked about. So we're going to put together some guides. We have a data science working group, and we're spinning up some extra activities around the data that we collect and trying to use it more effectively. We're also focusing on growing the user community, so more awareness about what CHAOSS is, so that people know that we exist and know how to use us. So that's part of why we have a stand here at State of OpenCon. We're also looking at a few other things, like growing our contributor community, and collaborating better just amongst ourselves within the CHAOSS project. We're also looking at forward-looking things like for example, how are things like AI and other emerging technologies likely to impact the whole space of metrics. And we're also looking at how to provide some of the tools that we have more in a software as a service model, because they tend to be very difficult to spin up on your own and install and keep them running.
Sure.
So we're looking at how we might be able to offer those more as a service for people.
Right. Excellent. Okay, well, Dawn, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.